Elisa Wallace here. So this past weekend I had my first event of the season. So a couple of things to talk about that. I had the reason why I chose to run a one day and kind of how we managed that day. It was pretty busy. And then going to talk about the results of the day and kind of like how I felt about the horses. But before I get into that, I want to make sure you guys like, subscribe, and hit the little bell. A big thank you to my Patreons, and for my advanced level Patreons, you guys are going to get your bonus footage this week of a lesson I had with Leslie Law with Munson Slew, and it was a really big help and really paid off in the performance for Munson at this past event. Many of you guys may be asking why I chose a one day, and here's kind of a little bit of a breakdown of it. So we actually had a choice for this event. We could have what was called a prelim one day, or you could have it over the 2 days. So the biggest factor for me in this is I actually, especially at the beginning of the year, I prefer it having the one day because I like my horses to run kind of on good fresh footing. And so with my horses being in the one day, they run first, and then the horses that do the 2 day actually run after us. So that's really my biggest thing that I like the one days. It's also, even though it's busy, it's really good practice because I'm kind of on and off a horse. I'm just from 8 o'clock until 4 I'm on, and so that also means it's kind of back-to-back jumping, and it really is kind of good for me and getting the practice and just kind of not thinking kind of where I am in the results, but just riding the courses and the horses for kind of what they are and being in that moment. With Rocking Horse, it's fairly close, so that's the other reason why I chose one day. It's only 45 minutes from my farm, so 45 minutes to an hour. So it's something that we can ship in, go and compete, and then come back home. The thing that's kind of nice is it was held on a Friday, but also kind of a con to that was my husband actually had to work on the Friday, so I didn't have my cameraman there. So that meant I had to also plan on who I could, if I could, have a video person. It was how we manage and plan for running that one day. We had to sit down, go through the ride times, and kind of just wrap our brains around, which, talk about we, that's me and my working student Megan, and we were lucky enough to have an extra set of hands, another working student named Chris. It was helpful that we had Chris there because she could actually help video. At one point I did have to ask a good friend of mine, Peter Gray, to video one of my show jump rounds because everybody was busy. So my dad was riding, Briggs was on his horse, Megan was back at the trailer tacking up and untacking. I was on a horse from 8 o'clock until 4. Another thing to plan in there is when you can get drinks. So keep making sure you can stay hydrated and trying to eat. Sometimes it can be hard as a rider to eat. So it's good to have some protein bars or something around that you can kind of take a nibble of and have some energy for the day. It can be hard for the grooms to have time to eat because, again, we're just tacking, untacking, on, off all throughout the day. So it can be quite a busy day. Like our lunch that we got on that day was at 4:30. So we were very, very thankful that the food trucks were still open. Very thankful for Rocking Horse because they did a pretty good job of scheduling, which I know I had 4 horses in the prelim. And so you guys will see, like on my helmet cams, I had the prelim A and the prelim B division. So they did that just because they have a certain number of horses and it helps with time and all that stuff. But it is pretty much the same test, same cross country, same show jump, which made it easy because I had 4 horses in the same test. So that was one thing that was really nice about it. Didn't really have to worry too much about memorizing different tests. So going through each horse, kind of the plan for each horse, if we have any tack conflicts, because some of my horses do use the same tack, just trying to plan out who's going to be where. I mean, oftentimes with these one days in a lot of the shows, my working student I have to be back at the trailer. So we started the day 4 o'clock in the morning. We got up, we fed the horses, brought in, did that. Then we loaded up, got to the showgrounds at about 7 o'clock. So my first ride was at 8:30, and that gave me a little bit of time. I was able to go walk my show jump. And then I like to get on my horses for dressage. Now again, it depends on the horse, but I like to have around a 30-minute warm-up. I like to start off my horses in a nice stretch in the beginning, then do a little bit of practicing some of the movements, making sure they're nice and relaxed, letting them walk, have lots of walk breaks in between, and then kind of time it just right so they're ready to go in for their test. Munson was up first. He put in a really good dressage round. I thought it was pretty consistent. He was pretty relaxed. Sometimes he can get a little tight, but overall he does a pretty good job of laying down some nice solid dressage scores. The next horse then I jumped on right after Munson was Let It Be Lee, or Lee. I thought it was a fairly decent test. He can sometimes get a little tight, and I've been working on saddle fit for him, and he seemed a lot more comfortable. You know, we put in a fairly accurate test, and I was pretty consistent with my scores being kind of in the mid-30s. I wanted him to be relaxed. He can tend to anticipate, so instead of running him in an intermediate this past weekend, I decided to just let him go in a prelim and have it pretty uncomplicated because I wanted him to just relax and make it feel pretty easy for him because he's going to be moving up to the big advanced at the next one. Next up was Sharp Decision, or Sharpie, and Sharpie has become a fairly experienced prelim horse now. He laid down his regular super solid dressage test. I thought he got robbed a little bit on the dressage score, I have to say. I thought he put in some really good movements and he's a really good guy to ride on dressage because he's just pretty rideable in the dressage test, which is nice. I can tend to depend on him pretty well for that. The last horse, which everybody's been asking me about, has been Riot Gear. I know all of my Riot Gear fans were excited to see him back out, as was I. So Riot headed out on dressage, which typically wins the dressage. He is pretty funny because we normally going down the center line, he always puts in an extended trot. He likes to kind of show off going down the center line, but sadly I couldn't hold it and he kind of popped into the canter, which he's never done before. So that was a little disappointing, but we brought it back in, got it back together, and laid down a really nice, pretty test, and pretty accurate, which put him in third after dressage. So, and again, like, that didn't bother me at all. I just kind of laugh it off. It's been since June was his last show. So overall, it was not a big deal.
Then I had to jump right back on Munson for a show jump.
Show jumping can be his weakness a little bit, and he was putting in an amazing round. I actually had a new piece of equipment that I tried on him, which is the titanium, I think it's called the Fenwick mask. It's a titanium ion mask. Anyways, it's supposed to help kind of calm and focus the horse because Munson can tend to be a little spooky, and when he does spook, he tends to shrink a little bit when he jumps versus jump a little higher with the spook. So kind of two types of spooky horses there. But I put in actually a really nice relaxed round. He was jumping pretty well, and unfortunately the last fence caught us and he just took that last rail, so that was a little disappointing. But overall I was really pleased. One rail is not a big deal.
Then I had to jump right back on Lee for his show jump.
My Patreons have seen my lessons that I got to have with Ann Krasinski, which has been actually a really big help for me and Lee. And he felt super good in the show jump. He was jumping really good. I was able to keep him in the same rhythm, which has been something that I've been working on, and changed my position a little bit to where I had a little bit more lighter seat in a shorter rein. And he put in a fantastic clear round, so I was really thrilled with that, and that really gave me a boost in confidence with him. Show jump again is a little bit of weakness for Sharpie. Many of you have followed Sharpie from the beginning. His shape and the way he jumps has changed a lot, so he's gotten a lot stronger. And he too was putting in a fantastic round. I unfortunately had the rail at that Swedish where he just kind of ticked it a little bit, but besides that, he put in a fantastic round, and I was really pleased with that. And really felt a difference in how he was going around, so that made me really happy. And heading into show jump, again, he's a good show jumper, so I have a lot of confidence with him. Now, he was a little bit on the muscle side because I think he was a little excited to be back out at it. And prelim for him is a little low, so sometimes it's hard to keep him backed off when they're a little on the lower side. And he put in a fantastic show jump round. I mean, just besides being a little bit on the muscle side and wanting to take the bit a little bit, where there were a couple of times where I lost my rideability, but he jumped a nice clean round, and again, it was super fun to have him back in the ring.
Then I had to do a quick switch and jump on Munson.
Again, we're just my intentions are I just want my horses not necessarily going for the clock, but kind of want to be near it, probably 10 to 15 seconds slow. Just looking to have him be really nice and confident, how he feels, how he's jumping. He was very good, really not too bad heading to the water. There were some pretty shadowy fences out there, and he did a good job with them. So he recovered really quickly, which is always something I am assessing. So a really big thing is kind of how they feel, how they jump, their energy level, and then when I come off the course, like how quick they recover. And this was pretty easy for them, you know, not a very long course. So it was a really great first gallop for them. And then Munson, he finished up in eighth place. So I was really pleased with his first one, and he's going to be moving up to intermediate at his next one, which will be at the same event. So fingers crossed that the next one's going to be even more successful.
Another quick horse change, and I was back on Lee for his cross country.
I have to be careful to not ride him the same way I ride in show jump. So I needed to make sure I gave him a longer rein so he wasn't galloping with a short neck. It's always really important for that. And just letting him kind of coast around. And again, this is a pretty soft prelim, so just knocking off the rust, letting him gallop in stride to all the fences and make sure my position is where it needs to be, and having him on that longer rein so he can go out with a longer neck, because that's kind of where I've made some mistakes in the past. And he was able to make time pretty easily, and it really wasn't by pushing or anything like that. I just was able to trim the lines a little bit here and there, and it was pretty easy, and he came off the course just wanting to eat the grass. So I was pretty happy with his recovery, and his overall performance was great. I mean, he finished up moving all the way up from, I think he was 8th after show jump, and then after cross country we finished up 1st. So super pleased with that. And his big thing is he'll be moving up to advanced at Rocking Horse in 2 weeks, so that's super exciting. Again, this outing was really just about having him relaxed and feeling good and getting a nice coast around. So really, and like for me, kind of tweaking some things here or there and how to go forward in our season.
And then back on Sharps for his cross country.
He kind of the same goal. I wanted to be about 10-15 seconds over. For Sharpie, I have to make sure that I don't push him too much in the beginning. He's got to coast and really let the stride open up, or else he gets a little, he'll just get a little tight on me. Especially these first couple of events, it's not about making time, and I mean, winning is great, but those aren't, it's not really the big shebang about it. It's more so about like where my horses are and how they're feeling in their training, and for Sharpie, it's really want him nice and soft and listening to me and not being worried and making sure he keeps a really good shape over the fences. And now that he's a lot more experienced and he is a lot stronger, so when I make kind of a mistake, the light for him was actually pretty hard on cross country. There's that fence number 8 just became really hard for me to see, because it was weird because the light was coming in, but then it was in the shadow. Now they did have the paint on top of it, which did help, but bless him, I rode him to a pretty bad distance, but he was able to get me out of it. He finished up 11th this weekend, but overall I was super pleased with how he felt and his strength and his confidence. Like he really feels like a nice, solid, educated horse right now, so I think he's like really ready for his move up, and I'm really excited about that. Now, cross country with Riot can be a little interesting, to say the least. He can be a bit of a spooky horse, and not in the fact to the jumps. The jumps are the easy part. It's the other things where he gets a little distracted, a little worried. It can be birds, it can be people, it can be shadows or random bushes that may catch his attention. Kind of in the beginning, you can't really tell in my helmet cam really, but he's so bouncy. He's like a little Tigger kind of in the beginning. So I really just wanted to get him to go and gallop. I asked him to kind of gallop on more forward to kind of keep from the up and down happening. And mind you, I still had to kind of keep that balance between letting him gallop a little forward, but then making sure that I kept him rideable so that he didn't get too strong. I think we were like 15 seconds slow, and he'll be moving back up to the intermediate level where he was. So he's a fairly experienced horse. We've just had a couple of roadblocks that have slowed us down getting back to where he was. So he'll run intermediate there, and then hopefully the next event he'll run advanced. So he came off the course barely breathing hard, recovered really well,
and finished up second for a really great day of competition.